Hello there and welcome to Eventful Arabia, the show that brings you behind the scenes right here in the Gulf region in terms of what's happening with all sorts of events, be they big or small. We have lots to talk about, and joining me today to actually talk about this is Benoit Honnart. Thank you so much for being with us. He's the CEO of Electra. You know, talk to me about more of the sort of exotic events that you do, rather a little bit more than maybe the mundane stuff that I tend to do sometimes that is conference-led. So talk to us a little bit about that.
Well, I can spend hours talking about these luxury events and all the crazy stuff that happens. I do remember one of them for Hermes, which we built on a remote island. We had to build an entire experience with different rooms for different bags. So we reproduced a moonscape, we reproduced a cinema theater, we reproduced a plane. We actually bring some of the fabric from a specific shop in Paris, and we had bags floating in the air on clouds where my workers actually did the painting, a creative painting that reproduced the clouds. 3 nights without sleeping and delivering finally this amazing event, and people came and they were all, this is a dream. And this is where our industry is amazing, because you actually create dreams.
So there's so much going on in the region. You've been involved in this business for what, more than 20 years now. Talk to us a little bit about, I suppose, the big changes, because in 2 decades, things are different than they were, 20 years ago for sure.
Well, the Gulf region has become the main hub for events in the world. That's the big change. Came to the region a World Expo, a World Cup in Qatar, and many more are to come in Saudi Arabia. So in few years, this region has become a center place for events worldwide. And a lot of things have changed, because to build and to deliver worldwide events, obviously all the players and suppliers in this industry had to adapt.
Now, was there a turning point sort of at any time that you could sort of identify and say it was going this way for a while and then suddenly we've moved, to a bigger scale almost?
Well, I think the World Expo was definitely a turning point, especially here for the UAE, because before the Expo, I think the industry was very fragmented. There was different way of delivering events. I think the World Expo set a standard that everyone had to follow, and everyone had to really improve how things were done in this region. So for me, there was a before and an after the Expo.
Well, talk to me, I suppose, about that size and scale, because when we're looking at events like that, and again, we're looking at bigger events coming to the region too, that has got to present many, many challenges, I suppose, for all the stakeholders involved. So how do you get started? Give us a feel for it. And again, where do you come in on this?
Well, I mean, the building an event obviously takes a lot of time, and there are many, many people involved, from the design phase to the planning phase to the production phase. We as Electra, we are really focusing ourselves on the production of the event. So basically, we take a creative concept and we make it, alive. Sometimes some very creative design that we really need to make it happen. Very complex, very creative, and we need to come out with an actual production. So I think building an event takes time. It takes a lot of planning. It takes a lot of thinking, especially now with having sustainability in mind. It is not something that you just deliver in one day and comes out with no pre-thinking before delivering the event.
So I suppose so you get the concept almost, and then you have to work with all of the planners, the designers, and You're the ones who deliver the wow, is that it? So when we walk into these incredible venues, yep, and we look around and just see the structures, the stages, that's all down to you, yeah, Electra?
Absolutely. I mean, this is exactly what we do. We have our own production facilities, and when we receive the design, sometimes people are like, how are we going to deliver this? How are we going to produce this? How are we going to manufacture this? And sometimes with a very, very short time, because the region, they want things great in a very short time. So this is where we come in action. This is where the magic happens. And obviously, when you see the results, I mean, this is obviously a great moment. It's a lot of emotion, because the time you spent in carpentry, in paint, in welding, in fabrics, in printing graphics, I mean, all this is, it's an orchestra that comes in one place and delivers the magic of what event is.
And sometimes it really does look like that. And I think here people want to really come up with something different, and that's got to be tough though in many ways when you think about what is a big conference, what's a big exhibition, so how do you make it different? Because within a conference, it's fundamentally, we're still going to be doing the same thing. We're going to be talking to people. We're going to hear people give keynotes. We're going to have people on stage. So how do you actually make that look, I suppose, a bit different, at the same time delivering what it needs to be as, a venue that's going to, I suppose, engage, inform, educate, and inspire with the conference and with the content?
Well, first of all, I think we are extremely lucky to work with probably the best agencies in this region, and they come with amazing ideas and creative and design. I mean, there are sometimes venues which are very difficult to work with, and suddenly you enter the place and you're like, oh, I've never seen that place before, because it's completely transformed. So we work with these people and we help them to deliver what they have been dreaming of. And sometimes, obviously, it is a bit complex because there are a lot of different techniques involved. And this is where we are involving ourselves at the early stages of the planning to make sure what they have been dreaming of is actually feasible. Building an event comes with a lot of different thinking and a lot of different skills. Making a difference, I think, obviously the quality. This region wants quality. They want something wow. They want something they've never seen before. They want the biggest. They want the world record. So we come with, obviously, that quality. We also come with innovation. We have developed structures, temporary structures, that are extremely innovative. Typically, we have a structure called the cube. It is an inflated roof, so that reduces the consumption of energy within the structure. And obviously, for this region, reducing energy consumption is a great deal. We have recently launched a new structure called the wood line. The structure that looks like wood, but it's actually not wood. It's aluminium with wood coating. And when you see the structures, it's beautiful. It's wood, it's resistant, but it's actually aluminium. We've recently delivered an event for Chanel, a gala dinner. We used that structure for the first time, and everyone in the room said, but Benoit, this is a wood structure. I'm like, no, this is aluminium. Innovation. So they want something new, something that never has been delivered anywhere in the world. They really want to touch, something that they cannot have anywhere else because they can afford it.
No, that's so exciting. And later, I do want to talk about sustainability in this sector because it is so, so important. And again, thank you for bringing it up, because at the very heart, I think, of the fundamental planning, and that it's good to hear that it's built in, and it has to be. But talk to me, you mentioned Chanel, you mentioned fashion. Talk to me about more of the sort of exotic events that you do, rather a little bit more than maybe the mundane stuff that I tend to do sometimes that is conference-led. So talk to us a little bit about that.
Well, I can spend hours talking about these luxury events and all the crazy stuff that happens. I do remember one of them for Hermes, which we built on a remote island. We had to build an entire experience with different rooms for different bags. So we reproduced a moonscape, we reproduced a cinema theater, we reproduced a plane. We actually bring some of the fabric from a specific shop in Paris, and we had bags floating in the air on clouds where my workers actually did the painting, a creative painting that reproduced the clouds. 3 nights without sleeping and delivering finally this amazing event. And people came and they were all, this is a dream. And this is where our industry is amazing, because you actually create dreams. And with all the stories that are obviously part of this dream that makes it happen. And that's where luxury comes in the picture, because they offer their client not only great products, but I think they also want to create the emotion, the experience on top of what the brand can offer.
So now we can understand the price of those Hermes bags. They've been floating in the air. They've had all that extra production, so to speak. Yeah. But and it is, when you see these events delivered, they do have that sort of magic concept to them. And yeah, that's what you want to do, because ultimately, I think that's where the emotion hits the producer, not the producer, the consumer, and then lures us to buy. That's what it's all about.
It's all about uniqueness and things you can't buy. People can buy a Hermes bag, they can buy a very nice ring from Cartier, but having this kind of event and this kind of experience, that's not something anyone can afford unless someone puts it together and work with the right people.
Now, you work in the Far East, you work in Asia, you work here in the Gulf as well. And I mean, if you were to look regionally, would you say there are different types of events that are happening in different regions? Or are we beginning to see sort of a sense of similarity happening around the world and just a new standard?
I think there is some kind of similarities between Asia and the Middle East. I mean, I lived in Shanghai for 10 years, and I see the events happening currently in China or in Singapore or now in Southeast Asia are somehow similar to what we see now in the Middle East. They want things that are new. They want something that are extremely creative. As I said, they want to see innovation. So I would say Asia and the Middle East are very similar. Europe has a bit more tradition in their shape of event. And obviously you have this fashion week that happens since decades. So that is becoming a regular meeting for the luxury industry. But Asia and the Middle East have a lot of similarities. And I would say now the world is looking at us because a lot of the brands, a lot of the global brands are doing their first time events or concept in Dubai or in Riyadh or in Doha, the same way they were doing it in Asia before.
Now, events by their nature, they're going to be temporary. And we've seen events that are up for maybe a day, sometimes even just one night. And then all of this magical structure then has to be taken down. Talk to me a little bit about the sustainability that is beginning, I think, to be built into events. And, where does that come from? Does that initial care come from the client who wants it? Or do you actually come up with that and say, we have to build this as sustainably as possible because it will serve its purpose and then we take it down? So how do you manage?
First of all, I mean, recently I've seen a study. Apparently, events count for 1% of the carbon footprint worldwide. 1%. It's not a small number, coming mostly from energy consumption and the logistics. Sustainability is a combination. Is first of all a company that wants to engage itself into offering something different. We do have now in our company new generations, including myself, that really wants to change the way things are done because we have a future, we have kids, and we don't want to give them a different environment that we have seen when we were born. And at the same time, it comes from the client. If the client does not want to change things or when the way they're done, it has to be a partnership. So we have obviously developed different initiatives because sustainability is a huge topic. I mean, there's just not one thing you can do. The biggest one we've done, we've engaged into a partnership with Veolia. Veolia is one of the leading companies in the world for waste management and recycling. And we decided to work together and develop a partnership on how can we recycle, repurpose, reuse all of the material that we are using for our events. Today, I can say that almost 80% of all the productions we are making is either recycled, repurposed, or reused. Mostly carpentry and the wood that we're using. This is all reused. Now, I mentioned before this structure which has an inflated roof. That's another...
The energy saving one,
exactly. It's 20% less.
Absolutely fascinating.
So
Tell us a bit about that.
That's another way of bringing products that actually can make the consumption reduce. The same way around, we have developed a modular system called Sleek. This is a way for building walls with aluminum frames that you can use multiple times. So rather than building custom-made MDF walls again and again and again, we're coming with modular system that you can build fast, clean, and you can reuse for 10, 15 years. And that is a very, very simple and efficient way to build things in a very sustainable approach.
No, and that's extremely encouraging to hear because, when we look at these structures, which are clearly temporary in nature, many of them, we do wonder, we look at lament the demise maybe of something that looks so beautiful. You come back the next day and it's gone and think, where did that go? To the landfill. But clearly it's not happening. And I think that's very encouraging to hear that. But I want to really look at, the energy savings now and how you can actually build that into events because many events are in temporary structures. They're outside or whatever. They might need transformers or generators, all of that. Of course, they need transformers, but generators was the word I'm looking for there. So how do you actually measure the energy that you need, and how do you actually look for something sustainable when you're building that?
There are different aspects. First of all, you need to measure the material that we are actually using to build. Okay, so that's a very easy to measure your impact on carbon footprint. So currently, and a lot of our clients are asking us to measure the carbon footprint we have on our events. Now, when you're looking at a structure, obviously the structures we are offering have this capacity to really reduce the consumption because it's much more isolated. So you look at the overall space, you look at what season you're doing your event, and then based on that, we work together with a power company that are providing the generators. Some of them, by the way, are providing solar generators that works with solar energy. We recently have delivered a downtown design, which is this design fair that happens in Dubai, that was fully operated with solar panels. So that's a great way of making sure we're not using the fuel, as much as the fuel is quite cheap in this region, but we use the solar and we have sun. So let's use it. And that's a very good way of reducing the carbon footprint overall.
So in the region, particularly in the Gulf and the Middle East region, you're finding in the key cities that actually the clients are also interested to make sure that they're building sustainability, and even down to using solar power in that. That's great to hear.
Well, first of all, I think, again, the guests that are engaging in this event, yes, this is what they want. I mean, as much as they love the Chanel bag and they love, as I said before, the ring from Cartier, they want to make sure that the brand they are buying from is also committing to sustainability, to having events which are respecting or following the way forward of how things should be done in our industry. And this is engaging the people much more when they know that what they are seeing is actually not going to be used for just one event. If it is repurposed, obviously people will feel like, all right, this brand is really taking care. And they are working with companies like Electra that also are taking care. It's a joint commitment. And I think the future event has to be sustainable. There is no more people that wants to see all the trash in the back of the truck and having all this material wasted. This is just not something people want to see anymore. So I think it's the only way forward. And I'm glad to see as well the government engaging into this journey. I mean, the UAE has announced this green program for 2030. Vision 2030 in Saudi Arabia is also talking about sustainability. They are all engaging into net carbon zero. So it's not only going to be us as a supplier or the client, it's going to be all of us with the government pushing, because if this combination works together, we will achieve the ultimate goals, which hopefully will be net carbon zero.
Talk to me a little bit more about the role of government and the local government and the municipalities when it comes to actually planning events, because there's probably permissions to be had and all of that. So I think it's very, very encouraging, again, to the fact that they're at least guiding everybody in terms of sustainability. But how do you work with government bodies to make sure that it becomes the win-win and that you can do what you want and deliver the event that you want and they can be happy that that's happening?
To be frank, all the RFP we received recently from government entities, they all now are asking specific certifications to be qualified, starting with being ISO certified. So we are ISO 14 and ISO 45. So a lot of this RFP, if you're not ISO certified, you will probably not be qualified. And if you're qualified, you will not be prioritized. The ICV certification that you have in the UAE also accounts sustainable practices, also as to be given preference when you are selected as a supplier. So I can see that now the government, not only here in the UAE, are definitely giving priority for the companies that are investing into sustainability, investing into health and safety, investing into the communities as well. I mean, CSR is part of this sustainable journey. How do you take care of your employees? So I would say really the government is trying to encourage by giving more business to companies that are actually investing that amount of time, money, and people into a more sustainable practices.
Many events I think that happen to, they can be quite elaborate and there can be a lot of food, not wastage hopefully anymore, but there's also companies and events and maybe NGO types also, I think, are they approaching you to say, how can we reuse this and, rather than just recycle it, maybe repurpose it for somebody else? Or are there any plans in place or anything on that you see are working?
Simple one, carpet. That's one of the things that you cannot recycle in events. We're giving carpets to mosque, because they need carpet for mosque. For the Ramadan, when they are doing the iftar, they need carpet everywhere. So we are giving a lot of the carpets for events to mosque and Muslim communities across the region, because they are super happy to have our carpet free of charge, and for big spaces under the tents where they host the iftar, and so that's one way of reusing things for the community.
Yeah, no, that's good to hear. Talk to me though about putting on a sustainable event, so to speak. I mean, people can be quite budget conscious and cost conscious in terms of what they're doing. Are we getting to a point now where actually they may as well put on an event that has sustainability built into it because it's the right thing to do, and actually because you can probably deliver it for the same cost? Is that beginning to happen?
It is not only becoming to happen, but I would like to change the mind of everyone. Doing sustainable event is actually more economical. It is untrue that it has to be more expensive. And it's for simple math. When you are reusing or repurposing things, it means that you have already paid for it. You have already used it for a different project. And that's the reason why you can actually sell it to your client with a cheaper price, because you have already used it, you have already amortized. So doing sustainable event does not mean all the time that has to be more expensive. Yes, time to time, if you're bringing solar energy, it is a bit more expensive because you need to invest into the equipment. But ultimately, on the midterm or on the long term, it is actually saving money to do sustainable events. And this is what I'm trying to change the mindset, because everyone comes to me and say, Benoit, I love your sustainable solution, but how much is that going to cost me? And I always answer and say, well, you know what? It's not going to cost you more. So if we plan ahead to gather your event, I'm pretty sure we can find savings that ultimately will reach the same budget if we were doing the same way that we were doing before, the old practices.
And clearly, I mean, that's a winning solution. If you can come up with a same price for a project, I think then people will go out of their way to choose the more sustainable one. So that's really exciting.
If sustainable means more expensive, I mean, we are all into a corporation where we need to make business, we need to make money. I mean, having a company ultimately is to make profit. So if it has to be more expensive and make less money, it will take even longer to change how things are done. But I am a strong believer that actually doing sustainable event can be economical and can actually generate more profit. I mean, if I talk about Electra, having our modular walls or innovative structures, reusing our material, that actually generates more margin. And that's clearly something that proves that this model can be a virtuous one.
Talk to me about technology and the role of technology, because a lot of the work you're doing in terms of the construction and all of that, yes, you need manpower, and also probably because it's so detailed and quite bespoke, you probably need more manpower than robotic power. But where's technology helping in terms of maybe a faster build or a faster delivery?
Well, might surprise you, but AI has completely transformed the organization in the last year and a half. How? The first one, and that's a big surprise for me, was to implement AI on our recruitment. Okay. You think that having AI and technology for recruiting people is a bit strange. Well, actually, it's the other way around. We used AI to do the filtering that we were not able to do before. When you receive 1,000 CVs, there is no way you're going to read these 1,000 CVs. So the AI is helping you to select the best 10 or the best 15 without bias. So that also helps to increase your diversity. And then you have the interviews and you can recruit people faster and better. And we have really improved our recruitment processes thanks to AI. AI comes also in the design phase. So when our clients are coming to us with a design, we use AI to optimize. So from that design, how can we optimize the manufacturing? How can we optimize the methodology of fabrication? And AI comes in place to do this kind of analysis. We obviously use AI for planning. So when we plan our resources, our manpower, our logistics, AI is just simply helping us to be better and optimize how we're going to deliver the event in a more efficient way. So technology for me today, I mean, there are many technologies we are using, but AI for me is clearly the future. and will help us to be even more performing in what we do, and including on sustainability. I'm pretty sure very quickly the AI tools that we have will help us to reduce our carbon footprint by simple analysis of how we operate. Human can obviously gives you a good input on how you operate, but the AI has a different angles to your operations as well. So AI will be the most transforming technology in the next years for us.
And that's great to hear, because I was about to just talk basic technology and then shifted to the AI, but clearly AI is like running miles ahead. And it can probably help you even in design. Every now and then you must get a challenging design in that you even look at and go, this is maybe not impossible, because you don't ever want to tell anybody that, but maybe you need to tweak some of the designs do you get in. Do you ever get anything so crazy that you look at it and think, sort of scratch your head and go, are we going to be able to do this?
Almost every week. Working with the luxury industry.
They're a creative bunch,
they are
aren't they?
Extremely creative, and we love it.
Yes.
Frankly speaking, sometimes I'm receiving design, I'm like, wow, this is beautiful. And we're like, how are we going to build this? This floating cloud in the air, that's going to be interesting to build. So yeah, it happens every week. And this is where we need to sometimes find compromise. The designer or the architects, we need to come into that discussion and say, well, your idea is great, but we possibly could do it that way to make it really efficient. Now, where AI comes in place, so we received a design, and what usually was taking a lot of time is to analyze all the different elements that makes the design. So you plug this design into the AI tool, and the AI tool will just break down all of your material from a 3D design, a picture, and that will break down all the material that you need to provide to make it live. And that's extremely helpful for us, because that's breaking down all the MDF wood that we need, all the graphics, all the fabric that we need. So it's really helping us to analyze a design from a simple picture.
And again, when it comes to I suppose the big challenging ones, have there ever been any you've had to maybe turn down, walk away from, and think, we can't do this? Or is there always a way out there somewhere that you can pull in another creative mind, maybe, that you might have to basically pull on board for a short term?
It never happened that we haven't delivered. Now, it did happen that guests were entering the venue and we were still working in some corners of the events. I remember that event for Hermes. Her Highness was actually coming in, and we were still with the cranes fixing things on the tent. So that's the beauty as well of our industry. It is a last minute business. We need to make,
of course, because you can't get access sometimes. That's the problem. So
yeah,
there might have been an event there the week before.
Yeah.
And it's such precision. I have seen it happen. You're almost like an army standing by, and one event goes and you're in. Is that what happens?
It's an orchestra, and we have very short timeline to build things that looks like permanent. And we also have to adapt to the environment. We've seen a lot of rains recently in our region. That also has impacted some of our events. I remember, again, downtown design, I think 24 hours before the opening, we had about 30 centimeters of water in the middle of all the tent, and the stands were built. It was ready to be opened. On that same day, I was on the air show, one of the chalets for one of our clients. The doors broke down and the rain came in. We need to adapt. And that's where agility comes in the picture. If you're not agile in our industry, it's a bit difficult. If you're too rigid in your processes, you usually will struggle. So you need to adapt, you need to be flexible. And you also need to accept that sometimes perfection is not, always possible. And a lot of the clients understand that as well.
And you probably need a good relationship with your insurance broker as well.
Yeah, hopefully not too often. But yeah, during the floods that happened here in Dubai, we had one of our factory completely flooded. So a lot of our machineries were broke down. Some of our stock was damaged, and we were highly supported by our insurance. So hopefully luckily they help us to refurbish everything. And actually, we use this opportunity to completely refurbish the factory and start from scratch and use the opportunity to make it new.
Well, that's the good side of it. And again, I mean, I just think very quickly too, health and safety has to be up there for particularly for you at the very top of your agenda as well. Even built into sustainability, you want your people there at the end of every day.
We are ISO 45 certified. We are doing a lot of training on health and safety. I have my supply chain director that is doing the pledge, I love my life, I think on every meeting we are doing. And I think, I mean, it's the key aspect of our what we are doing. I mean, we have almost 550 people in the company. They are working day and night on site to deliver these beautiful events. We need to make sure they are coming back home safe. And that's our responsibility as management. It's their responsibility as well, because they have to take care of their colleagues. It's a teamwork. And I'm glad we haven't had any major incident in the last years.
Number one, you have to make sure everybody is working, as you say, in harmony and delivering what you want in that orchestra. Just as we finish this up, there's a question we love to ask everybody at the end of that, and that's to take out the crystal ball, so to speak, and look ahead, because you clearly have to start planning in terms of where you're going next. 5 years, 10 years down the road, do you think there's, a great strong focus and a lifetime for events, particularly in this region? And are you expecting strong growth? Tell me.
Well, Saudi Arabia has to be on the map. I mean, we recently opened our factory and we are now fully operating in the kingdom. We have been working in the kingdom for many, many years, but we have now really invested massively to be able to serve the ambition of the Vision 2030. I mean, the World Expo is coming in 2030. There will be a World Cup in 2034. So hopefully we'll be working again on the World Cup in the region after the one in Qatar. There is 2 Asian Games, the summer and the winter ones. So Saudi will see some of the most incredible events in the next years. It reminds me a lot when I arrived in China. I had the Olympics in Beijing. I had the World Expo in Shanghai. I think Saudi Arabia is engaging into the same journey. And obviously for all of us in the industry, Saudi Arabia is one of the main focus. But I know that the UAE will also come with some surprises. So I'm expecting as well UAE to showcase as well some major events in the coming years as well.
Yeah, I mean, I really do think the entire region, is upping its game every year, So, and it's so good because you're at the very heart of it, and at the very heart of it, at the very base of it, and building all of those great foundations and delivering what we all now expect in an event, which is the big wow factor and the magic. So keep up the good work. Well done. And it's great to have you here.
Thank you so much for hosting me today.
Benoit Honnart from Electra. Thank you so much. This has been fascinating.
Thank you so much.
It's great to hear how it's all put together. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much.